to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that at this point in time, you are acclimatizing to your new life, to your life on your own terms, to your own narrative, and that you're actually building on that narrative. I pray at this time that you are protecting yourself, you're calling your energy back, you're doing the necessary, spiritual practices and rituals to keep you and your family safe, because the spiritual war is waging. And I wanted to bring this story to your attention. This is another major time. Well, maybe it is another major time, but what I actually meant to say is this is actually another major sign that things have changed forever and will never be the same again, and that a whole new governing system is trying to take over. The New World Order is trying to take over. Or could this be a sign that the ancient ones and the ancestors are back? Because now the International Space Station, which has been, it's been there since I can remember, beloveds. They have now said that they are going to be bringing it down. They're going to be basically destroying it and crashing it into the sea before the end of 2030, because they say that now it's not governments and countries that are going to be running what happens in space, but it's going to be private companies who are now going to actually be commercializing, they call it the low Earth orbit. What do you think that means? Do you really think these people have ever left this place? We live in a dome, beloveds. If you want to get out of here, you got to go through some plasma. And if you're not melanated, your body ain't strong enough to go through that plasma. You don't just shoot up a rocket and you pierce the dome. So it's all been happening, within what they call the low Earth orbit. Well, now, and I'm just wondering about the timing, beloveds. So they've said that, they talk about how it's going to save them money, and what governments now are going to be doing is they're going to actually be hiring space in these private, private space stations where for their astronauts, for their researchers, etc., etc. Of course, they're talking about how it will reduce costs and everything. But what do you really think is going on? This is a major sign, beloveds. What do you really think is going on? They're blowing up their International Space Station and crashing it into the Pacific Ocean. And you know what's even more disturbing? So there's this point, I think it's called something like Point Nemo or something, which they say is the furthest point from any landmass. And that's where they dump all the satellites when they shoot them from the sky. That's where they dump all the, all the old like space stations. I think Russia, they were talking about how Russia had crashed their space station into that particular place. So if they were in space, wouldn't they just release it and let it go into space instead of bringing it down? Why would they crash it on Earth if they've really escaped Earth and Earth is this round ball that they see from outer space? Think, beloveds. Ask questions. And the reason I share this with you is because this is a major sign that the game is totally changing. Of course, by privatizing what happens in space, there'll be less scrutiny. The government won't have to share as much, of what exactly they're doing. And this is paving way, beloveds, for what I call, the technocratic New World Order. That's literally what is happening here. But at the same time, so they're saying, they hope by 2030, these private companies, like now they're yielding to the private companies to take over. Really? What if they're not allowed to be there anymore? What if something else has told them to get out of the atmosphere? But what if they know it's going to be destroyed anyway? If you still believe we landed on the moon, then you really don't have any idea. You haven't even gone into the rabbit hole yet. You're still at the surface, beloveds. No one gets out unless you have a certain spacesuit that allows you to pass through plasma. That's why we have gates, beloveds. The only place they've been going is around this massive plane called Earth. Dig deeper, beloveds, and know that this narrative is too full of lies for you to be a part of. There's too much confusion. There's too much, beloveds. But this is a sign. I take this as a sign that our ancient ones are not just back, but they're stationing themselves now. Tuko pamoja.
Wake up, 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 wake up.
But those are definitely stories. But those are definitely stories. But those are definitely stories. But those are definitely stories for other days.
Wake up, Africa.
Due to public demand, beloveds, we really want to start this new stories for other days. Now, we were thinking of whether we should, have an entire separate channel for it. But for now, we'll just put it on this channel. So definitely, beloveds, stories for other days has been something that we've been saying for so long, and so many of you have requested that we start this segment. So we're definitely, finally, it's happening, and we'd really appreciate it if you could share what kind of topics you would like us to cover first. We really want this to be family driven, beloveds. We really want you guys to be the ones, where we're covering the most pertinent information to you that is relevant to you. So you can also email me if you don't want to comment about it, Dr. Mumbi at drmumbishow.com, where, if there's any topics, and we're going to basically be starting that. Now, another thing that we're going to be starting is going live. It's something that we've been feeling so urged to do, but I'm a very reserved person, even though it may not seem it. And, being live, beloveds, it does take a lot of energy just because of all the different dynamics. But I definitely believe it will do more good than quote unquote harm. So we will definitely be starting the Dr. Mumbi live very, very soon, and we'll be letting you know when that goes live. So make sure you subscribe, family. Make sure you subscribe. Let us know what you'd like to see on Stories for Other Days, and thank you for your continuous support. And I want to take this opportunity to give a special thank you to everyone that has kept us in their prayers, that has been called by the Most High to pray for us throughout the years, beloveds, because, ever since day one, as I've always said, we're not here for the likes, we're here for the revolution. And the message is, it's not so much about transferring a message to another person. That is very powerful, but it has always been about throwing those darts into the enemy's camp and, weakening the enemy, because the enemy, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so it's all about, the consciousness that they try and manipulate, the way they try and manipulate things. And so if you can just create cracks to their said philosophies and all that, that helps the great spiritual war that we're on in a massive, massive way. But so many of you have emailed me, have called me. Special shout out to my staff as well, both on my farm and, who work for me behind the scenes, who have been praying for me ceaselessly, especially in 2021. I appreciate you so much, beloveds. It has worked as a serious shield of protection, which brings me to the last, the third thing that we're going to be adding, which is a story time. We're going to start doing story times and just sharing a bit of our story, as we wind down that book, as we wind down that life. It's like we need closure, beloveds. We need to write the conclusion. And what I've found in sharing things about toxic families and how many of us were spiritually married to our parents at a young age, or we were sold out, or all those things, I've noticed that there were so many similarities in our stories, and there is so much power when someone shares their story, because you realize, there's so many parallels, because we're all fighting the same principalities and the same spirits. So when I share my story, which is a very vulnerable thing to do, I really hope that it will, enrich and enliven and kind of help you to understand and understand some of the things that you went through in your own life, as as we release the past, because beloveds, there's a bright new future waiting for us.
Wake up, Africa!